Alright, it's your boy No Tail Ninja back at it again with another review and a follow-up to after last week's chapter with that amazing cliffhanger that was Deku A losing his arms and B Aizawa and the rest of the crew showing up. And this chapter kind of answers a lot of those questions, but I'm a little conflicted about the answers. I don't know how much I'm feeling this. But before I talk about it, make sure you guys like, subscribe, you know the deal, especially since I'm trying to get this one out faster. You know, I've been working harder. I had to work 6 days this week, and now I'm, putting an extra day in just to make sure I can get this out to you guys. Anyway, enough of me rambling, let's get to it. Now, we open up the chapter following the events from several chapters ago, where Aizawa, Kurogiri, and Present Mic fell into that warp gate portal. And now we see where they were actually teleported to. Apparently they were just teleported to this random piece of land in the middle of the ocean. And President Mike is getting pissed because he realizes that Shirakumo is just not responding right now, and he's like, yo, you picked the worst time to stop responding. And he's really angry because this desecration of what his friend's corpse is really pissing him off. And he says, if you ain't Shirakumo, then fade away and leave us with the memory. We shouldn't have given him the benefit of the doubt. We shouldn't have relied on this corpse. And President Mike is letting his emotions get the best of him, and he's getting ready to deck him in the face. As Aizawa grabs his hand and is like, wait, I could see tears. And President Mike is like, no, I don't cry because I'm a man, which, toxic. But he means no, Kurogiri. But President Mike wants to dismiss this, saying it's just rain, and because he's a Nomu, he's not really a person anymore. And the only reason why they even teleported them in the first place is because they got in the way of him and Shigaraki. And they said their top priority is just to get back to the battlefield, and then after that we could destroy him. And Aizawa was just like, what is he, just ill-gotten gains? We should not forget the miracle that we saw in Tartarus. And President Mike is like, bro, we're 31 now, not second year, so we gotta let these emotions go and realize what the truth of the matter is. But Aizawa's really not trying to hear it, because he's like, Shirakumo died as a second year. And plus, if he really wanted to kill them, then why didn't he just drop them off a cliff or throw them off the mountain? What he realizes is that day in Tartarus, they actually let a little sliver of Shirakumo out, and it's there, but they can never really get rid of what is Kurogiri. And if they need to do their job as UA teachers and see that this student actually makes it to his graduation, which technically if he's a second year, he's the same year as Deku right now. But anyway, Aizawa says that's where their origins lies. They remember their days kind of being like their three stooges of their academy, as it triggers that memory and Kurogiri starts to activate. As even President Mike thinks back on that time and says those memories never fade. As Kurogiri's power starts to activate again, we actually come back to the command center where Tsukauchi is. And Aizawa comes through in the radio and he's going straight to business asking where's Monoma. And Tsukauchi informs him that apparently he received a head injury, so he's kind of out of the battle for right now. So if that's the case, then Aizawa's just like, okay, give me the coordinates of every other hero available. And we actually get to see him teleport to the shelter where Eri and Ectoplasm were. And Ectoplasm's a little bit surprised to see him here, but he just kind of goes straight to business, saying that Kurogiri is back up on the battlefield. We have his abilities. Let's get everyone we can together. And Aizawa's not really sure how long this development's going to last, so they need to move as quickly as possible. As Death Arms is like, wait, so we're able to get to the battlefield instantly? Then he's in. As we get to see another hero or kid who's apparently from Horikoshi's spin-off series. I believe his name is Astro. I'm not too familiar about that, but I heard a lot of people talking about that. And maybe his quirks will be similar to whatever he does in the manga, or maybe this is just a one-time shout out and we'll never see him again, but who knows. As the kid who also didn't want Deku let into the UA barrier is like, yo, I want to help. So he gives Aizawa his shirt, as this scene is very awkward, as Aizawa just takes it and is like, thank you, I think. As they get to moving, so apparently all the other battles have ended, and only one left is a battle in Takoba Station, which I hope I pronounced that correctly. And apparently it's a villain who has the power to fight a lot of people for a long period of time. And his name is Ghastly with the baby tree, which we actually saw a few chapters ago, and I can confirm this has not gotten any less weird from what we saw last time. And before we get any information on what this guy is, what his quirk is, anything like that, they literally just come through a portal and immediately defeat him, which is, I guess, cool for the story purposes. This needs to be wrapped up a little bit faster, but it's a little underwhelming because this seems like a really interesting quirk and a really interesting ability, and I would have liked to get to know a little bit more about it, but it is what it is. And then we see Aizawa as he's saying starting phase 3, divide and conquer, which, dude, you gotta come up with a better name for these phases. I'm pretty sure phase 1 was divide and conquer. But anyway, we get to see Deku in All for One's battlefield as multiple portals start to open up, and it kind of is giving really strong endgame vibes, as All for One looks unimpressed as always as he's beginning to launch an attack. As he's saying, well, it looks like you've come to turn quirkless. As Deku and Aizawa begin to have a conversation about the condition of Deku and his arms. Aizawa was wondering how long it's been since he lost his arms, and Deku can't really confirm how long it's been because it happened in the Vestige world. And Deku's super confused because he remembers when fighting All for One in the UA Fortress that he could actually feel All for One suppressing Shigaraki. But now that he went inside and destroyed his core, he's confused because he's like, All for One and Shigaraki should have vanished and Shimura Tenko should have been the only one to remain. So who the hell is that guy? But as Deku's having his existential crisis, Aizawa actually pulls out a piece of Eri's horn, as he remembers back when he was inside the fortress that Eri actually gave it to him because she wanted to help with the fight, but if she couldn't get there herself, she wanted to take this to Deku. And Aizawa was shocked at this revelation as he's looking at ectoplasm like, what the hell, man? And he's like, yo, I'm sorry, but it seems like she learned from your ways, because remember, dude cut off his whole foot to not have his quirk be lost. And seeing that Aizawa taught her that her quirk is part of her body, that the horn should do the job. And he's like, that was kind of reckless, it might damage your quirk factor, but she doesn't really care. She just wants to be able to sing like Jiro one day and help people like Deku, Bakugo, and All Might. And since she's not allowed to go on the battlefield, this is the best way she could do it. And she would like to be able to sing for Deku someday. And we cut back to the battlefield where Aizawa is poking Deku with the horn. As he says, it isn't much. As we cut back to Ectoplasm saying that she hasn't stored up enough energy, so it wouldn't be useful. But Aizawa thinks otherwise, that a rewind process might be slower, but it should still work. So he says it'll take around 2 to 3 minutes, which, is that the only drawback? Like, that's kind of, what? But I'll talk about that later. But we actually do see that Deku's hands are straight up rewinding, like they're kind of reconstructing from nothing. It's kind of insane. And as I was like, yo, don't die until you get to hear Eri sing. And as this process is going to take a few minutes, we actually get to see Deku's reinforcements is going to hold the line for him until that's over. But then we actually see Class 1A and a bunch of other heroes pop out of the portal. As they say, I know we're exhausted, but it's enough to just make my body move. As they come to aid Deku in this final battle, which, let's just go ahead and get this little motherfucker back in there. Let's scoot you back in there. But still pretty solid. And before I get into talking about my likes and dislikes of this chapter, let me give it an overall rating, which I'm gonna go with a 7 out of 10. Just going off of like intensity and stuff like that. This was just more or less an informational chapter. Nothing super crazy happened, except for all the heroes popping up at the end. So it was like a solid balance in between. Now for my complaints, I do think that they should have committed a little bit longer to Deku losing his arms. I'm fine with him getting them back because there's really no way he's not going to get his arms back. But the fact that he lost them and gained them back in like half a chapter, like it was barely like a couple panels in the last chapter, and he got them back almost immediately in this chapter. So it's a little underwhelming on that sense, and they've kind of teetered back and forth with Deku losing his arms in various ways, and every single time they've chickened out of actually committing to it. So I don't know. And I was kind of liking the darker tone, but don't necessarily know how much this is better, but I'm going to wait to see how this plays out because Horikoshi has surprised me in the past and I've like talked smack and then immediately regretted it. But one of the things that does bother me is, again, some of the quirks and the way they work kind of varies from time to time. Like they will say a quirk can't do a certain thing, then they'll just do it anyway. So that was one of the things that kind of irked me with Eri's quirk. How they literally just mentioned a few chapters ago that she doesn't have the capacity to rewind. I thought maybe she'll surpass her limits or whatever, but it's like, nah, it could still rewind. It just will take slower, which if that was the only drawback, that's not that crazy of a drawback. But maybe he'll just rewind Deku's arms and maybe not his quirks, which I don't think is going to happen. I think he's going to get rewinded with his quirks, but I wonder if he's going to have all of them or if there's going to be something wrong or whatever. But that would be one busted of an ability that I guess they didn't want to utilize too often in the story because it would have essentially made it like the Dragon Balls where ramifications are straight up taken away because they can always just undo it. But I am curious to see what the other heroes are going to be capable of doing, as well as the new All for One or All for One Shigaraki fusion. I'm not really certain like how powerful he could be because the K is out of the factor, but he can still take the quirks, and who knows if that weird finger amalgamation thing he could do would still count as him taking your quirk, because that would be really busted. But I don't really think that might be the case, seeing as like All for One has those like palms in his hand, and he has to use that to take his quirk. So I think he has to actually touch you with his real hand, but I don't know. That could be one interesting of a development, that everyone who he touches, he gets their quirk, but we'll have to see. But anyway, like despite this chapter kind of undoing the ramifications, I'm still personally excited to keep watching. It is a bit of a drawback for me, but it is what it is. You know, you can't really love every chapter, I mean, but we'll continue watching. But anyway, that's all I really have to say for this for now. So you guys stay safe, my ninjas, and I'm gonna catch you in the next one. Peace.